So when in 2011 or thereabouts, pro-life organizations exposed how Pepsi was putting aborted babies in their soft drinks, there was a plethora of supposed debunking websites. Now, it's harder to find the truth because those original pro-life news organizations have been banned, but the so-called debunkers have their prominent place in Google. Being banned is the same as being delisted. And this is very recently. It's all been happening in 2018. They kicked a bunch of journalists off of YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, and now Google has delisted and YouTube has delisted. So even if you have a video on YouTube that has more views than any other video, if you put in those words, it's not going to show up. Okay? So it's also called shadow banning. But I did some research, and if I can use a parallel, okay, so some painkillers, which are very hard to get in the US, by the way, even for the people that need them. Some painkillers don't use poppies. They don't use the real morphine. They use a synthetic copy of the morphine. And this is the distinction between opiates and opioids. But even the synthetic copies of the opiates, they have as their inspiration the real things. So they can take the chemical structure of the painkillers made from the poppy plants and then copy that structure and make other medicines with them. And from what I can gather, that's what Pepsi did. So they claim that they're not using the aborted fetuses, but the flavorings that they were using to begin with were taken from the aborted babies. There's a huge industry, and it has its own desire for its continuance. The whole industry depends on the continuance of abortion. And they were looking for a new type of flavor, just like MSG is a new type of flavor that goes beyond salt and saltier or sweet. So they were looking for a new type of flavor, and they turned to this cannibalism for it. So while the original line had the dead baby parts, then they morphed that into a synthetic copy of the chemical, patented and everything. Okay. In the case of the vaccines, though, they actually, when they cut the head off the baby in a horrific procedure known as the partial birth abortion, they'll actually send those baby parts to the pharmaceutical companies that will then use them for their next lines of the vaccines. And they'll put them in this big vat, I call it witch's brew, that contains festering chicken eggs. Chickens have been fed genetically modified food. They'll put a monkey in a cage and they'll feed it diseases until its kidneys and its liver just burst, and then they'll harvest that, and then they'll murder the monkey, and that goes into the vaccine along with the glyphosate, the formaldehyde, the MSG, the aluminum metals. So we have to be careful about our terminology, because somebody could watch my videos and then go put this stuff into Google and say, oh, that's already been debunked. But no, vaccines are using the baby brains, and they use crushed up genitals in horrific procedures for those that are being robbed of these body parts. And we're seeing as a kind of emerging of Zionism with the pharmaceutical industries of bullshit. So now, in the case of the Pepsi, you're getting the flavor of the original babies, but the original murdered babies aren't in the soft drinks. I think it's very important to inform the populace about these things, because how many of us that would say we're pro-life? Yeah, I'm pro-life, but through our shopping decisions and our medical decisions support an abortion industry.